Hello, and welcome to Talking Logistics, where we have conversations with thought leaders and newsmakers in the supply chain logistics industry. And it's my great pleasure to welcome today's program Keith Nash, who's a VP of Supply Chain and Logistics at Lennox International, and Adam Brun, who is Senior Director of Professional Services at Manhattan Associates. And today we're going to talk about the benefits of integrated logistics management and looking at it from a real case study from Lennox International and kind of the journey they went through in terms of a supply chain network redesign and some of the great work that they're doing in terms of really taking a more holistic and integrated view of the supply chain and logistics operations. So with that, Keith and Adam, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thanks for having us today.
Thank you, Adrian. Yeah, we're excited to be here.
So Keith, in case there are some folks who aren't familiar with Lennox International, please tell us a little bit about the company, kind of the products that you make, the customers you serve, and an overview of your supply chain.
Sure. Lennox is a global manufacturer of heating and cooling equipment. We have three primary business units. There is the residential heating and cooling, which is my primary mission. This is the one most people are familiar with, as it is high-quality consumer product that is installed in your house. And then there's the commercial heating and cooling, which is something you may experience when you walk into some of the world's largest retailers or restaurants. And then there's Heatcraft Worldwide Refrigeration, which manufactures items such as unit coolers, which cool down refrigeration rooms in restaurants, and other products that you encounter in a grocery store, cold storage, and presentation. Consumers may encounter the results of one of our Lennox brands or products every day and may not realize it. In Lennox Residential, we say we're a B to B to C, business to consumer. We generally sell to the dealer direct. You generally don't buy as a consumer our equipment. We have about 50,000 dealers we sell to, and they in turn sell it to you and install the equipment. In commercial and refrigeration, we may be spec'd in with the design or the manufacturer, and some of our business units sell into independent distribution. One of our major producers in our markets, of the major producers in our markets, we're probably the only ones that owns our own distribution network fully end to end. In fact, we've invested quite a bit in the last few years, taking it from a national distribution model to a hub and spoke network. Whereas we had a static model with fixed distribution supplied from a national location, we now have 9 regional distribution and about 20 local distribution entry points into our value network. Along with that, almost double the amount of locations that ship in varying degrees.
Yeah, interesting transformation there, and I'm sure going from kind of that kind of supply chain redesign introduced some change management and some both challenges and opportunities in and of itself, and which brings me to my next question. I mean, you're on the front lines of supply chain and logistics every day, and I always love kind of hearing from people on the front lines to kind of understand what are some of the key trends and factors that are impacting their operations. So why don't we go there? What are some of those trends and challenges and opportunities that you face in your operations today?
That's a good question. I think number one would be, and probably should be, rising customer expectations. Shorter cycle times, what used to be next day is now next morning. Our percentage of same-day delivery is growing. Our order cutoffs for early next morning delivery are getting later in the evening. What was previously unprecedented in our industry will become the new bar to hit. High availability, having the right product available is a given. High accuracy in all respects, including paperwork and data. And by far, I think we need to be easy to do business with, maybe even solve their needs before they know they exist. That's a long answer to number one. The second one is we found we've had to become what I call fulfillment masters. We have a complex mix of transportation modes, inbound and outbound, from warehouses that have been designed to be multi-channel from as we were building them. intermodal truckload containers, break bulk, LTL small pack on the way inbound, and then there's truckload, LTL small pack couriers and will call outbound. And we've had to tailor our fulfillment capabilities from a small part, 4 or 5 ounces going out UPS overnight, to truckloads to large dealers. The same warehouse is dealing with both of those. Delivering a future home's driveway, if the driveway is even poured yet, to our store replenishment, to custom packaged and wrapped job deliveries, and we also manage inventory on site for other customers. We've had new rules hit us, like hours of service and global trade rules given to us. Those are new considerations we've had to work into our mix. And varying capacity levels available with different costs. We're constantly running optimization models. We've kind of had to figure out how to have more hours in a day, so to speak, and how to better utilize our assets.
Yeah, no, a lot of common themes that I hear from other supply chain and logistics executives. I was surprised to hear that, same day delivery and kind of the compressed delivery times is something that's also impacting you as well. Adam, just to kind of get your perspective. I mean, obviously you work with a variety of different companies and different industries. The trends and challenges that Keith just spoke about. Are they similar to what you're hearing from other companies out there?
Yeah, I think they really do ring true for a lot of the other clients that we do business with. They're very, very consistent. There are some other topics that we see come up. I think the visibility, the ability to really understand where everything is within my network is a really big component of a lot of our clients these days. They really want to have that real-time data, whether it's geopositional, onboard computing, so that they really have a visibility to what's going on. The other area that I think has been really a boom recently is the omni-channel space, and people really wanting the ability to be able to understand where their product is, how do they source it, what are the best ways to get it to the end consumers in the fastest way possible, and that's been really, really important to a lot of our retailers. As the consumers become more and more finicky and really looking for the best possible deal and finding that product that they can get the quickest. So it's those are some other options and some other areas that we've seen that have really popped up. But the things that that Lennox deals with, they're pretty consistent with a lot of our other clients that we deal with within the supply chain space as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the common threads, obviously, the specifics are going to vary by industry, but one of the common threads I always hear from executives is that what's different today is not so much managing change, because change has always been kind of the constant, but it's managing the rapid pace of change, right? So the change is happening so quickly on so many different fronts: regulatory, customer expectations, technology, and that's really what's keeping them on their toes, if you will, day in and day out in their operations. Keith, going back to you, and you talked a little bit about kind of the network redesign that you did and kind of some of the work that you've been doing there. As part of that, you implemented an integrated, logistics solution, kind of bringing together transportation management, warehouse management, visibility. As you were evaluating kind of different solutions out there and options, what were kind of the factors that were important in your selection process, and what have been some of the benefits you've achieved to date?
I tell you, one of the things I always think about is that the technology enabler should not limit what you want to do. And certainly, as you know, we have Manhattan as our core logistics solution with warehouse management and transportation management, labor management, slotting. It's really allowed us to manage the process quite well despite the complexity, and we're doing it with record service levels, shorter response cycle time, higher accuracy, flat working capital, and decreasing cost. One thing to mention, Adrian, is that we are still growing. We started with 65 locations and in 2008, and we're up to a little over 150 locations now, and we have a goal of 215 locations in place by the end of 2016. So you can see there's been quite a bit going on in addition to getting the core processes and technology enablers in place. We've seen a 20 to 25% rise in productivity at our major RDCs. Along with this, we've seen inventory accuracy raised to the 99.95 level, which I think is very good, although the team keeps working on it. And additionally, we've been taking cost out of transportation for 3 years to more than offset the headwinds of rate, fuel, additional stores, and additional international factories we've set up. Pretty significant effort on the part of our transportation team to make happen. But it's always a mix of people and process, usually with a technology enabler like Manhattan, or in our planning side, we use SAP in our inventory planning processes. We've been hitting it from all fronts for 4 solid years now.
So it sounds like one of the key factors was, I mean, you're growing very rapidly. So really, having a technology platform that kind of can keep up with that growth and scale, as it seems to me, will be one of those key things that you were looking for.
Absolutely.
So Adam, let me ask you, because when from a process and a technology perspective, many companies still operate in silo fashion, right? Where planning and execution, are poorly integrated. As our transportation, warehousing, yard management, and other logistics applications, right? So, you not only have this kind of spaghetti chart, if you will, of applications, you also have this silo mentality where you kind of sub-optimize, you're optimizing each of them individually, but from a system-wide perspective, you're really kind of missing opportunities there. Keith just kind of mentioned some of the benefits that they've achieved by kind of taking a more kind of integrated approach. Are there other examples of kind of with some of the companies that you've worked with in terms of kind of some of the benefits, some of the processes that you can improve by really taking a more integrated and holistic approach?
Yeah, I mean, there really are, Adrian. And, some of it is, as simple as, hey, let me just get the same technology in-house. Let me have a platform that really, simplifies my IT overhead, which is, it's a big part of the whole supply chain process. So, that ability to just get a consistent technology in place, is an important part to a lot of the customers that we're dealing with. But I really feel like it goes a lot deeper than that. We feel like a lot of our clients have been able to, really demonstrate just a lot of value. Just being able to have the awareness across the supply chain, making decisions within the transportation space that has full awareness of how operations work in the warehouse, and being able to make those decisions conscious of data that's flowing from the warehouse so that you're not sub-optimizing downstream. I think that's really been one of the most, impactful parts to this kind of platform revolution, is really bringing all these pieces together that were so siloed in the past, and making them aware through data and workflow, so that you don't sub-optimize. We hear it all the time. We go into a client and they say, well, we're doing great in the transportation space. And then you talk to the warehouse guys and they say, well, man, the transportation guys are killing us. They're doing all these things, makes it really hard for us to operate. And we really take it upon ourselves, I think, to go in and focus on that full end-to-end supply chain and really think of things holistically, so that we're giving a solution that really hits it out of the park for the client.
Keith, just to kind of follow up on that, and in terms of kind of the transformation, if you will, the journey that you've taken in terms of really moving away. I'm assuming that maybe there was some element of siloed thinking or siloed processing in the past before you kind of moved into this more integrated approach, not only from a technology side but from a process side as well. Can you comment a little bit about kind of the approach, or kind of any change in management that needed to take place in order to really take that more integrated perspective?
Yeah, well, you're right, Adrian. I think we had about 68 silos, actually. These would have been all the stores and the corporate and the national shipping centers, and they were definitely silos. And the phone was probably the most common consensus method we had between them all. Today, we have better visibility than we've ever had before, but we're not completely there yet. As we're just finishing an upgrade of our Manhattan systems, next year we'll be deploying the Manhattan Supplier Portal, event management, and visibility. We receive well over 100,000 phone calls a year asking, where's my stuff? And it's a complex process to find out where it is. On average, it takes over 5 minutes of phone call. It's our longest phone call. You have to go through many screens, and if it's not here, it must be here. If it's here, you have to kind of follow the trail. And many of our dealers need to hit an exact schedule to stop by the shop, get it and install it. They may go install one unit in the morning, then come back, get another one and go install that. And we envision a great deal of where is it calls moving to self-service or mobile even where the customer can see where their fleet truck is on a map via telematics devices piped into the event management system. We're really excited about that. As we implement the portal at Event Management, we'll implement the processes of automated appointment scheduling and unfortunately rescheduling, which will greatly enhance our 3-shift labor scheduling and seamless flow. We're looking at this to help reduce the surprises of just 5 trucks showing up all at once. Event management, I've done it before, it can be a flood of information, tens of millions of transactions per year, and if your people processes aren't in control, it can be a flood of bad information. Your control points need to be well thought out and managed so that your out-of-tolerance conditions get the attention needed.
No, those are great points, and visibility is one of those topics that year in, year out is always top of mind for logistics executives, and being able to get more timely, accurate, and complete data and insight into what's happening with the operations, I think is an overarching goal, and one that it always has room for improvement. And I like the fact that you talked about telematics and mobile, because I think a lot of there's certainly a lot going on in the industry there in terms of being able to integrate those kind of technologies into the visibility process, and allow customers for self-service. Anything else in terms of from a goals standpoint, in terms of visibility that you're looking to achieve over the next few years?
Well, yeah, a few things, Adrian, some of which I've touched on. I do have to add 25 new stores next year, and we're adding our 9th RDC, relocating and doubling the size of Canadian RDC, and rolling out new supply planning processes to 7 manufacturing plants. But besides that, specifically in logistics, we're excited about the new supply of data coming for opportunities and continuous improvement. I've discussed SCEM, but we're also collecting all the execution and cost data. With that, we're developing detailed logistics cost to serve information to the customer level. We put cost to fulfillment activities, services, and modes. And we spent a couple of years positioning ourselves with an analytics department with data scientists, supply chain analysis personnel, and a connected distribution engineering and operations execution team ready to respond. I think that'll all take us to a new level. Also, next year we'll start implementing inbound transportation management. We expect to improve costs through optimization of inbound and outbound activities, reducing deadhead miles. Within our own business unit and across business units, really starting to view it as one supply chain where possible. This will all go hand in hand with the SCEM and visibility projects. We're also considering how to find a break in the schedule to implement a load optimization tool in line with our supply planning and deployment processes to increase our truckload container utilization.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's continued path towards taking ongoing holistic perspective and seeing where those operate, the adjacent operations, whether it's inbound and outbound, and as an example, and kind of taking a more holistic and integrated approach there to find those savings opportunities.
Sure.
Now, Adam, Keith mentioned, cost to serve, which is kind of a metric that I'm hearing a lot from a lot of different companies today as kind of one of those foundational understandings that they're trying to achieve in order to see where there are opportunities for improvement. Is that something you're seeing as well in terms of companies paying more attention to cost to serve and how that's defined? Because I'm sure if you poll 10 companies, they'll have 10 different definitions of how they define cost to serve. So it's your thoughts on that metric and what impact it's having today.
Sure, yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think for a long time, people have kind of operated without having that visibility, without really maybe the thought of what is this transaction costing me from inception to end. And we do see a lot more of that in the market now, where people are trying to quantify that and getting a sense of, how do I take all of these transportation costs and all the labor costs and the warehouse management costs and be able to manage all that and be able to bubble it all up into a single cost. Certainly, it's something we see in the marketplace today. It's something that I think drives a lot of value if you have that kind of visibility. If you have an understanding of what these individual transactions are going to cost you, it allows you to make a lot better decisions within your supply chain because you've got a common denominator that you're able to work from and bubble up and then start trying to target those areas of the supply chain where you can impact that cost and really try to drive it down. So it's definitely something we're seeing a lot more of. It is challenging. Different people do tend to quantify these things a little bit differently. But we have some good options that we've worked through with a lot of clients to really help them build that calculation, so to speak. And we've got tools that allow us to do that as well. And really feel that it makes for a lot more impactful decision making once you're able to quantify that information and really use it strategically within your supply chain redesign.
Great thoughts. We're coming up short on time here, so kind of as a way to wrap up, Keith, I'll start with you first. What words of advice or lessons learned would you offer to companies that are kind of in the early phases of going through the journey that you've been through?
That's a good question. We're short on time because this could fill about 100 pages. But first off, I would say put a multi-year plan together. A single-year plan is nowhere near going to cut it. There's predecessors and successor activities. And take the long-term view of where you want to be at. And make sure that's flexible and has a solid business case because there's a reason you're doing it. And you have to remind yourself sometimes why you're doing it. Review it regularly. Keep it current and focus on the value delivery. Second, I'd say build a strong team founded on the basics and knowledgeable of the body of knowledge, logistics, supply chain. Define the investment in the team is the most important thing. Be careful to monitor the resource load because you've got to execute the improvements while you're running the business. There isn't 3 sets of people to do all these things. Process and technology support solutions need to be flexible, agile, and scalable. I've been saying that for years. A manual process is not scalable. Frozen hard code is not flexible. And listen and look at what others are doing. Ideas for agility come from everywhere. I go to conferences, user meetings, things like this. I hear what others are doing and try and apply it. And then there's change management. It's a full-time focus of ours. If you're doing it right, you'll be changing everything. And change management and facilitation is critical. You need to consciously invest in it. It can't just be a buy pattern. And I think fourth and the last is when implementing change, a lot of decisions need to be made. I use the following 3 criteria in this order. What is the quality of the solution? What is the effect to the schedule? And then the cost. And if you take care of the first 2, that third one will take care of itself. If you go any other direction, it'll have unplanned consequences. Great
words of advice there, Keith. And I think when you're absolutely right. I mean, I think particularly the change management piece, because as I mentioned earlier, the overriding challenge that everyone's facing is managing that rapid pace of change. So unless you've got that those processes in place to manage that change effectively, and then the technology to be able to scale with growth and be able to scale with the new timescales that everyone is dealing with today, the compressed timescales, I think is a key words of insight there. Adam, anything to add to what Keith said there?
I'll tell you, he summarized it really well. I think the one thing that I would just touch upon a little bit more is, I think it's important to have the vision. You need to have that long-term vision, like he said. You have to understand, where are you operating well and where can you improve, and really understand where those levers are as far as your supply chain and where you have, potential to go after ROI. And then make sure you put a very thoughtful plan in place. Time is important. You don't want to rush these things. You want to do them in a thoughtful way so that you can get the return on the investment, but that you get all the benefit that you plan to up front. A lot of times we see clients that'll come in with maybe not the right plan, or they're too aggressive, or they just really haven't thought things out. And when you do that and you operate that way, you're never really going to achieve the goals you're looking for when you're trying to go through a supply chain redesign and reoptimization. So, be really thoughtful, think it through, spend the time up front to come up with those levers that are going to really help, help you to get some of that return on your investment, and then lay it out in such a way that you're constantly getting some of that return on investment as you go through your supply chain redesign.
Great food for thought, and things for all of you watching to take back with you. In terms of really the I know it's not something new. People have been talking about the need to take a more integrated perspective of your logistics operations and your supply chain. But a lot of companies still haven't walked that talk, and obviously it's great to have Keith here and Lennox International, who have are on that journey, have taken those steps and have achieved real value to date. And so Keith, thank you very much for making the time today to kind of share your story, your benefits to date, and your words of advice with our audience.
My pleasure. Thanks, Adrian, for having me.
And Adam, thank you as well for adding some additional perspective and thoughts on this great and timely and important topic.
Thank you, Adrian.
So with that, thank you very much for joining us today on Talking Logistics. If you do have a question for Keith or Adam, you can find this episode on talkinglogistics.com, and if you post a question there, I'm sure Keith and Adam will be more than happy to respond via that medium. So with that, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in a future episode of Talking Logistics. Have a great day.